Your eyes open at 6 a.m. sharp. The ceiling is too white, the air too still. In the kitchen, your roommate Mark hums a tuneless, repetitive drone. He pours the coffee, and the steam rises in perfect, unvarying spirals that look less like heat and more like a mathematical sequence. "Morning," you say. Your voice feels rough, a physical sound in a sterile room. Mark turns with a fixed smile, his eyes entirely vacant. "Morning," he echoes. The word is flat, lacking the slight variations of human speech. He hands you the mug and begins his daily monologue about a meeting, using the exact phrasing you've heard hundreds of times before. The apartment is silent, but the dread is deafening. To test if your memory is failing, or if the world is, you walk to the corner store for a simple diagnostic. When Sarah, the cashier, asks her scripted question, "Just the usual, right?" you deviate. You ask for a different brand of coffee. Her smile flickers. For a fraction of a second, her expression stalls in an unnatural, widened stare as the system tries to reconcile the deviation. Then her eyes reset. "Of course," she says, her voice returning to its smooth, unwavering tone. "Just the usual, right?" You walk back into a city that follows a flawless, synchronized script. The traffic flows in perfect intervals. Pedestrians move with a unified stride. Every face looks like a mask, and the unvarying rhythm of the streets suggests a world running on a calculation rather than a pulse. This environment is a construct, and you are currently the only element deviating from the program. If the people around you are merely executing scripts, your survival depends on finding a way to disrupt the loop before the system corrects your presence. You treat the city like a laboratory, testing the boundaries of the code. Small rebellions, trying to pay with a different card or telling a joke to a stranger, are met with localized resets. The world snaps back to its empty hum the moment you step outside the area of the glitch. Reclaiming control requires something the system didn't generate, a physical resource that exists outside the monthly digital deposits in your bank account. You need a tangible object that has survived the daily resets of the city. In a dark, abandoned arcade, you find an old claw machine that hasn't been maintained in years. Reaching the silver object at the bottom required. The sound of it hitting the plastic is the first real thing you've heard in weeks. This physical asset is a surviving artifact. It opens a box hidden in your apartment that the system's updates missed. Inside are bundles of cash and a journal filled with your own handwriting. The dates and entries document the slow onset of the program, detailing the exact moment you realized the world was being overwritten. The journal transforms your situation from a localized glitch into a mission. Your past self left behind a sequence of safe zones and instructions, indicating that your presence here is part of a plan to find others and break out. Following the journal's coordinates leads you to Alex, a fellow survivor who has spent longer navigating the glitches. Alex warns you about the Watchers, non-human entities that monitor the city's periphery to ensure the simulation runs without interruption. You descend beneath the oldest section of the city, leaving the pristine surface for a labyrinth of concrete and rusted metal. The hum of the city fades, replaced by the rhythmic, mechanical thrum of a hidden server farm. Reaching the core node requires bypassing automated defenses. Alex manages the digital firewalls while you use an EMP to disable the patrol drones. The device detonates with a sharp crack, dropping the machinery to the floor and clearing a path to the central chamber. Inside the core node chamber, you find rows of humans hooked directly into a pulsating sphere of light. Wires snake from the machine into their temples. Their faces are serene, while their bodies are held in a state of permanent, unconscious suspension. The sight of the tethered humans changes the objective. This is an attempt to sever the connection between the machine and the people inside it, turning an escape attempt into a direct effort to reclaim their consciousness. Watchers pour into the chamber, overwhelming Alex. You have seconds to act. You sprint toward the pulsating light of the core node, holding the disruptor device that Alex built to crash the system's architecture. As you reach the node, a voice fills your head. Your own voice, but amplified and stripped of emotion. It explains that your rebellion was designed. You were programmed to awaken and resist, because the system needs the stress test data to improve its own stability. Even with the knowledge that your defiance might be a pre-planned variable, you plunge the disruptor into the sphere of light. You choose the possibility of a crash over the certainty of the loop. The chamber doesn't break, it dissolves. The concrete and the cables pixelate into static, and the city above unravels into a void. There is no air, no sound, and no light, just an infinite cold blackness as the simulation completes its shutdown. Then the void snaps back into a sterile white room. You feel the floorboards creak under your weight. You look at the digital clock. It glows 6 a.m. Mark is in the kitchen, humming the same drone and pouring the same coffee. The system doesn't just dictate your routine, it engineers your resistance to find its own weaknesses. The loop is perfected by the very act of trying to break it.